Epic Universe opened on May 22nd, 2025, and there's a lot to take in with this park. Amazing theming, world-class dark rides, and 4 coasters. Their headliner being the monster dual-track launch coaster in Celestial Park, Stardust Racers. Since it started giving people rides during the previews, this established itself as one of the best coasters in the world. I got to Epic Universe on opening day and got 5 rides, and came away with a lot of different thoughts on this insane coaster. This is my review and ranking of Epic Universe's brand new star coaster, Stardust Racers. First, I want to thank my Patreons and my new member, Matthew, Carowin's biggest supporter. If you want bonus access, bonus content, behind the scenes videos, a shout out when you join, and your name on this fancy Patreon screen, follow the link below and join. When you enter the park, you're greeted with Celestial Park. Not officially one of the portals, but kind of the glue that holds the whole park together. This area circles around the center of the park and has 2 rides of its own, the Constellation Carousel and Stardust Racers. Located to the right of the park after you enter, wedged between the Wizarding World and Isle of Berk. Right from the start, you notice the size and scale of this coaster, not to mention its layout. It's full of airtime hills. It peaks at 133 feet and each side has about 5,000 feet of track. On the surface, this looks amazing, but I was kinda skeptical. Would this be a crazy ejector machine, or would it be toned down to appeal to the masses? I was afraid it would run kinda weak, but was optimistic that Universal was gonna let it loose, and it could be one of the best coasters ever built. So on this day, I was able to get the final verdict, but not before they shake you down before you ride. This is one of those rides where you need to put everything in a locker. By far the most strict ride at Epic Universe, even using metal detectors before you enter the station. No other ride at the park does that. The lockers are at the end of the queue and they're free, using facial recognition to open and close the lockers. The same concept all the Universal parks use the front gate, and even when it takes a bad picture, too light or too dark, it still works. That being said, on my first ride, the locker I was using was open on the backside, then it quickly closed. So that disturbed me, but it ended up being fine, and I never had that issue again. If the park is forcing you to get a locker, even when you come prepared with zipper pockets, the least they can do is make sure your stuff is secure. This also means you can't bring anything to the station, so I have no footage of that. You pass through security and choose a side, yellow or photon, and green or pulsar. The ride is themed to riding a comet across the cosmos, and it's pretty loose throughout the ride. Some of these Universal rides are all about theming, some are all about thrills. This one is definitely all about thrills. You walk down a long walkway into the station. They assigned seats, but since the park was so empty, it was easy to grab the back row. For a ride with so many great hills, I figured this was the seat to be in. You pull down your Mock Rides lap bar that comes down over your head, very similar to that of DC Rivals or Copperhead Strike or Manta. These aren't my favorite, but they aren't bad either. They just have a bad habit of tightening during the ride, and that was a minor problem, but nothing to complain about, especially when you have empty pockets. The 2 sides coordinate dispatch and off you go, wrapping around and going under the station, hitting that launch track. Very punchy at first, but as you get close to the end, it kicks into a different gear and you go up and over that big top hat. A spectacular airtime moment coming over. It rises up again and then twists 180 degrees. More whippy airtime in the back. And then, my favorite moment of the ride. At least, the moment with the strongest airtime. The yellow side going into a camelback and jumping over the green side. Then, green returns the favor. Part of back-to-back double-ups. Just non-stop airtime city. And then you have it diving down in front of the station, the most visible part of the ride, the 2 sides crossing in a mist-filled ravine right there, front and center, rising back up over the station, into its twisted airtime hill, and that leads you into your second launch. And I always love a mid-course rolling booster launch. I don't know what it is about them, they're just great. And this launches you right into what is the ride's signature moment, the celestial spin. And this is really where the 2 sides differ. The green side goes up and flips over at the top, a pretty standard 0G roll, and the yellow side crests the top and then goes into a barrel roll down drop. The same thing you find in Iron Gwazi, and that's definitely the better element. It's less graceful but has so much more width. You head into an overbank that doesn't do much, then up into a twisted drop to the left. That part is insane, kind of like an outer bank, tossing you up while whipping you to the side. And while you're still recovering from that, the 2 sides trade jumping over each other, hit one more twisted airtime hill, and the ride's over. My initial thoughts after my first ride. I couldn't believe how much airtime this has. It's not some light floater, it's violent ejector on every hill. I also couldn't believe how long the ride was. I timed a POV and it lands at 1 minute and 17 seconds. That's 77 seconds. That's identical to Steel Vengeance, and one of the reasons I love Steel Vengeance so much is the long ride plus the airtime. So really, this is the all-steel version of Steel Vengeance. So why isn't it my number 1 or number 2 coaster? There are a few downsides, but they are very minor. I love airtime, but if a ride is one-dimensional, I don't rank it as high. Of course, Stardust Racers has 2 launches and 1 inversion, mixes in some different airtime moments, but it relies heavily on airtime hills over and over again, and it seems kinda weird for me to complain about that. But look at my top coasters. Steel Vengeance, Fury 325, Airy Force 1, Wicked Cyclone. These coasters have a great mix of elements over a long course. Stardust Racers could afford to mix it up a little bit more than it does. Also, the ride isn't as smooth as you might think a new coaster should be. A lot of Mach Rides coasters have this issue. It's just a slight rattle. I noticed this on Helix especially. It's nothing to complain about, but if you ride it over and over, it can grind on you. This also has been testing for over a year, so it's not exactly brand new. That could play a role in it. I also mentioned the lap bars. Again, not terrible, but Intamin does these over-the-shoulder lap bars better, and it's a pretty big nitpick. Riding this at night is also a must. The trains light up and they look amazing dueling each other when all you can see from far away are those lights just floating around. This ride didn't have any line all day during opening day, but when we went back to get that night ride, it was packed. And by packed, I mean maybe a 7-minute wait. After all, this runs 3 trains on each side, 20 riders per train, so even if this did have a pretty huge queue, don't worry, it should move fast. One more thing regarding theming. I would have liked to see better theming inside the first launch tunnel. I feel like that was a missed opportunity to have a Space Mountain style hyperdrive light package. A lot of people like to compare this to VelociCoaster. Very similar state-of-the-art coasters at Universal Parks in Florida. VelociCoaster being from Intamin, having more inversions and more theming but less airtime moments. Stardust Racers being from Mach Rides, slightly longer, having the added racing factor, more airtime and better capacity. I've heard opinions from all sides on this one, and it really depends on what you like. I mentioned, I love a diverse coaster, and VelociCoaster is very diverse. My ride on this last trip just bolstered my top 10 ranking on this, and I do have to give VelociCoaster the slight edge here. But, like I said, slight edge. That means I'm slotting Stardust Racers right behind it. This is my new number 7 coaster, wedged between those new elite coasters in Florida, VelociCoaster and Iron Gwazi. That might seem high, and I may be accused of recency bias, but when you go back to what I said about Steel Vengeance, 77 seconds of awesome airtime and whip, what's not to love about this? It's absolutely worthy of my top 10, based on what I value in a coaster, and if it threw in some more elements aside from injector airtime hills, it could have made it play for my top 3. I got 2 rides on the green side and 3 rides on the yellow side, and I would say the yellow side is a little better. I do like that elite third airtime hill a bit more on the green side. It doesn't rise up as high, but the celestial spin is better on the yellow side. I was also torn on if I want to consider this 1 credit or 2 credits. They do have 2 distinct sides. You do need to get out of line and back in to get on each one, and their layouts are not identical. They're not mirrors of each other, but they are very close. When it comes down to it, I don't think they're different enough to rank them separately. Meaning, it's not going to be yellow number 7, green number 8. It's not like Dueling Dragons where the layouts were entirely different. And for that, I'm counting Stardust Racers as 1 credit, and it gets 1 spot on my rankings. I'm not married to this idea, so if you have a good argument for this being 2 credits, I'm willing to hear it. In the end, when you come to Epic Universe, you will have your mind blown by amazing theming, state-of-the-art dark rides, and right in the middle, you have this absolutely world-class elite coaster you can ride over and over again and not get bored. And it just adds one more amazing dimension to the overall quality of Epic Universe. If you're an airtime junkie, this is for you. If you love powerful launches, this is for you. If you like getting whipped around, this is for you. Stardust Racers exceeded my expectations, and it's one of those coasters that took a swing at Steel Vengeance for my number 1 spot. And this has a lot of the ingredients that make it all the way to the top, but it just falls short. Not to be cheesy to end this video, but sometimes when you shoot for the moon and miss, you still land among the stars, and I have a new top 10 coaster because of it. If you've ridden Stardust Racers, let me know where it ranks for you. And if you have any significant pros or cons that stood out to you, sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. And if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.